Hello and welcome to a very special bonus episode of Lads on Tour. Lads on Tour is a bi-weekly live show where four friends dig through their pile of shame media that we've missed out on to create a list. Working through together, we play, watch, listen, read, write, sniff, eat, whatever. Each item on the list, and then come together right here on twitch.tv/Lads on Tour to talk about our experiences, but not this week. This week we've thrown all that out the window. Why? Because of Elden Ring. Now, we did try to rationalize this right before we got started. We said, oh, well, this is fine to do a bonus episode this way because it means that it's a list of shame game if you like the Souls games and you don't play Elden Ring. But what actually happened was that we were all too busy playing Elden Ring to put together a real show for you this week. So here we are. Tam, you reviewed Elden Ring for GameSpot. You gave it a 10.
Boy, did I.
And let me just say, I'm really excited for you to finally have the chance to talk about this game.
You know what? I've not talked. I wrote that review, and then no one has asked me a single question about it since. And honestly, I find as an industry quite shameful. Like I've spent a lot of time reminding people that I like these games, and not one person came to me to say, "Hey, would you like to talk about it?" Disgusting behavior, if you ask me.
And that's why we've brought you on today as our special expert
guest on this.
Finally gets to talk
Jake
about
Decker, you've been playing Elden Ring as well.
I have. I'm about 25 hours in already.
What class did you choose?
I chose Thief. I always go Dex first time through these games. I kind of regret it.
Dex out for the lads.
Dex out for the lads.
Because I kind of want a big sword. Having a big sword that's always the fun run. I feel like.
Wow.
But you know.
Yeah.
Lucy James. Finally, a Souls game for Lucy. How do you feel
What do
about
you mean? You and I played Bloodborne together.
Did you finish that?
Because a pandemic happened, and you were like, "Don't finish Bloodborne without me," because we spent like, because we played it together. We passed the controller, and it was all cute and sweet, and I was the one who was better.
Did you finish the game?
No, because he was like, "Don't finish it without me," and then the pandemic happened.
So you
we didn't see each
never
other.
finished. You've seen each other non-stop for the last, what, I don't know, 4 months, and not once have you thought about finishing Bloodborne,
Oh yeah,
the greatest game of all time?
I'm just gonna pick up Bloodborne after almost 2 years and go straight into the final boss time.
It's like riding a very horrifying bike.
It's like riding a
It's
cosmic nightmare of a bike.
It's like riding a bike, but the
sport
bike doesn't. No, it doesn't have the saddle. It's just the pole.
Ooh.
So it's like.
Oh.
Ooh.
Before we get too deep, shout out to Jinpei, shout out to Elfo, shout out to Serious Business, Batman. Who else is in the chat?
Serious Business Batman.
Space Trip, 88 miles per hour. Lovely to see y'all this morning. Welcome. Glad of you to join us for this very special episode because, gang, we can't stop thinking about, talking about, texting about. We've just been doing so much Elden Ring in the last few days. So Jake and I are no longer in the games media, so we didn't have an opportunity to get started early. Tam, you've been playing for many moons. Lucy, you got your copy a couple days early. You got your code, so you've been diving in as well. I think
it doesn't count for me though. I didn't properly get to play because I helped out on like gathering footage for the classes guide. So I got to experience the opening of the game 5 times because one of our wonderful producers, Devante, was doing the other 5. So, really familiar with that opening section.
Yeah.
But then I didn't properly get to dig in until Thursday night. Yeah, Thursday.
So I guess a good place to start is Jake already had said that he dropped about 25 hours on it. So we'll start by talking a little bit about how far into the game we are. So let's go with hours, class, and level. I'll go ahead and start. So I'm about 16 hours in. I'm at level 33. And I guess I picked Confessor, but the real class that I'm playing with right now is like kind of like Paladin build, because I've got good sword and good shield, and also decent magic. So I've got like a couple of nice buffs, and I've got like what's the pretty general, like the starting magic missile spell essentially.
Lightning bolt.
That's what I got going. Jake, you said you're a thief. You've been playing for about 25 hours. What level are you at?
Yeah, I'm a thief. I actually don't know what level I'm at, but I am at level 30 dex and like 20 vitality, if that helps at all. But I started as a thief. I am going pretty hard into dex. I think I've given myself 2 strength just so I could hold a spear, basically, because I couldn't hold the spear at the start. But I've just been shield parrying. That's all I do in these games. I just shield parry, just do as much as I can.
Once.
I like couldn't shield parry until I had beaten Dark Souls 3 once.
Yeah.
Like it was like a second playthrough where it finally clicked for me. And then, Bloodborne, the parry system is completely different. So it's and even the timing on this one feels a little different, which is fine, but it required some getting used to. And depending on the shield you use, the parry timing is different. It's a whole thing, but it's fun.
I have never been able to parry in a Dark Souls game. I've never gotten it down, and I was determined that this would be the game that I finally learned to parry. And I gotta say, I'm getting a little bit better. I have successfully parried a number of times in this game, and it has been a thrill each time I pull it off.
I'll give you a hint. The smaller the shield you have, the easier it is to parry.
Yeah.
It is. But then you've got a small shield that is absolutely useless to use other than parrying.
So the Confessor class has he starts with a shield that does 100%, what is it? 100% body blockage or whatever.
Physical negation.
Yeah. So I kind of think I'm just going to stick with that shield for the whole game and just keep upgrading it because it's a pretty sick shield. I don't really love the look of it, but it's nice. Lucy, what did we already come to you? No, hours and class, and you're muted.
I was just pulling up my Notion board so I could check. I am 7 or 8 hours in. I'm level 20. I was explaining to you all the way that I'm tackling the game is that I have a very intense Notion because I find it very difficult. I think with a game like Elden Ring, where there is no quest log, and I'm not gonna complain about that. Like, I actually love that it's not there. But if I don't have a way of keeping on track of everything, I get overwhelmed. I'm like, shit, did I go back here? Did I go back here? So I have a very intense Notion board. I
just
started
have
out.
this. Like, I just have like a notebook of side quests and then like places to revisit. I'm going very analog with this game.
Oh, you
Yeah,
gotta get in the Notion action,
But
baby.
I've got loads of interactive databases. And so if I, for example, I found an NPC who warned me about the dragon Akil. And so I make an NPC thing for that guy, and his quest is like the next thing that will advance the dialogue is to kill that dragon, which I then link to the dragon in the boss database, which I then link to the location database. It's all sad, frankly.
It's all a rich tapestry.
Defeat
a rich
Pumpkinhead Boy. I'm looking at the Notion right now.
I weirdly had difficult time with that, but then I got my spirit ashes and I was fine. But it's because
Is he the one that's got the full like, and he bangs his head on the floor?
And then I just found him, and he's just like a regular ass
Yeah,
enemy
he's just a
at other
normal
points
enemy.
in the game.
Yeah.
But I found like the boss version of him at Waypoint Ruins.
Looks like you need to find a dragon heart.
It's not Dragonheart. I miswrote that. It's Dragon Claw, Maw, and Fire. I assume Dragonheart, like the Sean Connery movie. But I went astrologer, which I'm really enjoying magic. So I was round at Zach's on Friday, and we were because who were we fighting against? Like
I forget his name, but he was a big gimpy dude with two giant hammers.
Yeah, he was annoying. Trying to do him with like sword and
Is it
board.
boss?
Yeah.
He's like a mini boss. Yeah, he's at the bottom of a catacomb.
Merc.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was playing around with like Zach's game, and then I tried him on magic, and I did it like second time.
Nice.
So magic is really good, but I do have like a nice straight sword, and I recently just got a shield that does 100% physical block damage. So
This guy right here. Yeah. Grave
this
Warden
boy.
Duelist. Yeah.
That was on purpose. I knew what you guys were talking about, so I just pulled it up quickly. It was
Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
Where did you find him?
He's in a catacomb somewhere in the first area.
I think I fought him, but I don't remember it.
Yeah.
To be honest, so I haven't seen any of the reviews. I haven't watched the reviews. I haven't read anything. I'm sure they're great. I know yours is great tomorrow. I'm looking forward to reading it once I'm done with the game, but I've been like trying to avoid anything. Now that I know a little bit more about the game, I'm eased up, I would say, a little bit. But watching this review right here, there's so much I still haven't seen in this game. And like even like in the early spots, like I know that there's bosses and caves and shit I missed, which makes me want to play right now.
Pam's review is excellent. Is very, very good. I also really enjoyed Mitchell's review at IGN. But Tam, I will say your review was chef's kiss.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Delightful. So I wanted to ask everybody. I guess at this point, spoilers are sort of relative,
Wait.
right? Like what?
Tam's starting class and everything.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tam. Go ahead,
Look
buddy.
at him. It's his only chance to talk about the game.
I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
Jeez.
Wait,
first
but
of all,
before... No, I'm just kidding.
Hey everyone, my name's Tam. Before we begin, I would just like to say, Miyazaki-san, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Wow.
I played the game for close to 70 hours.
Uh-huh.
My starting class is warrior. I have super high stats in both dexterity and strength. I'm working on the guts build, which is a big sword. I am one half of the duo Dash and Parry, specifically Parry. Dash being Andy Cortez. I've parried many enemies in this game.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I have defeated many a boss.
Okay.
And This game has taken over my life.
Do you feel like you're getting close to the end?
No,
No.
absolutely, because I basically started over. Like in
Yeah.
the same save files, like I'm going to the southeast region I can find, I have access to currently, and I'm literally like walking back and forth between these land masses, looking at things.
You said that earlier, and I thought you were joking. You're really walking the map.
Really walking around this map to be like, what else is down here? What can I find?
Something
Let me
wrong
tell
with
you, sometimes you find something amazing. Sometimes you stare at one of those goats rolling around for about 10 minutes and
Those
roll
goats
around
fuck
with
you
them.
up.
Yeah, they will
If
fuck
you're
you
not,
up.
if you're not looking, they will mess you up.
They are the goats.
This doesn't fuck you up.
They will roll you up. They will. But yeah, I've played a bunch of it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I've only played 15 or 16 hours or so, but like, the game is incredible. I mean, it's yeah. I am a FromSoft fan. I like these types of games, and I'm continually impressed in the ways that this game is both meeting the sort of lofty expectations that I had for it, but also defying that kind of thing and showing me something that I didn't expect from a From Software game. And like, I just think it's so incredible so far. Yeah, another chef's kiss for this game. So, I'm right now. I'm in the first dungeon area, and I am getting my ass handed to me. I will say that I think it's really interesting that like when you're out in the open world, it is a very different type of game. But when you get into a dungeon, it's fucking Dark Souls. Guess what? It's Dark Souls.
It's really clever design because they obviously know that you can't have the feeling of playing Dark Souls in the open world because
Right.
then there'll be no respite from anything.
Yeah.
So this game, more than anything, the open world is a substitute for those corridors in Dark Souls where there's one enemy or no enemy, and it's like the part of the kind of pacing the section of the game design where it's designed to build you back up before it knocks you down. That's what the open world, the function it serves, and it does it so well because once you get into any of these caves, even the basic ones, there's either difficulty in there or the tension is enough to make anything feel quite overbearing. So they need to have that in the open world, and because of that, it feels like a really nice kind of build and release loop that is super horny.
Put those eyebrows down, Lucy James.
Hey, he said horny.
I know.
So
Okay, let's do this. Let's start by everybody. I want everybody to tell one story.
I want everyone to say one nice thing about Elden Ring, and maybe we can get on.
I want everyone to tell one story about something unexpected that happened to you in this game. Starting with Jake. What's a story that unfolded via this game that you were not anticipating?
So
As I like to call it, fun folded.
a story that I would say fun folded. It's not like a it's not like a dynamic moment, I would say, but there's a certain boss that you fight at the beginning that took me by surprise, I would say. I don't want to spoil it because I don't know who's
It's out
found
there.
it.
I feel like you can hear.
Oh,
There's a character that appears in a lot of.
I
there's-
don't think.
I shouldn't say it. Okay.
I think I can guess. I feel like I can
The
guess.
thing is,
but
like, it's interesting with spoiling it because, like, you might never find this.
You
unless
might
someone
never
tells
find
you
it, and, like,
it's there.
you Souls fans are going to be looking for this character. I feel like that alone I've already said too much, but
No, I know. I 100% know who you're talking about.
but that fight in particular I thought was an obvious but nice nod. I would say that, but then the other thing is that first dragon you fight in that area, or you can fight, is such a sick fight.
That first dragon you see and then
run
away
from. I finally beat it the other day,
Good.
and it was like, if it was just such a fun fight, like riding on horseback while this giant dragon is flying over, shooting fire on everything. It's just stunning.
Lucy, what about you?
So for me, I think I'm gonna keep it very, very, very vague. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's like the fact that so many areas just have secret places, and so I'm being meticulous in like looking over everything. Because even though I did the network test, I missed that there was something. I missed something in Gatefront Ruins, for example. But I think one thing is that the way that the game like subtly, like I followed a sort of ghost at one point.
Oh yeah, the pointy
and-
or the walkie ones.
Yeah, and I didn't know they were a thing, and it was weird because coming from Horizon, where you know you use your focus and you light the thing
I need
and
to
then
use my
just
focus
follow.
here.
I could use my focus. You know, this one it's like I can. There's just a ghost that kind of appears before me, and I have no idea. Like genuinely, I was texting Zach. I was like, I don't know what's happening. I'm just gonna follow this ghost, and then there was like a small fight, and then there was something cool at the end of it. And so I was like, just I don't know. It takes. I think the way that it takes. There's no icons on the screen. I'm literally studying the map to see if there are formations on like rock formations or something interesting. And it's so weird because we've been conditioned by open world games to just go where the icon is, and like except for obviously like Breath of the Wild, I guess. But you know, just really hammering home that they're not going to tell you where anything is. And I'm not at the point my Tam is where I'm like walking back and forth, but what I do is that I kind of overdo an entire area before I even think about getting a map fragment for another one. So like I just look at the map and I drop like 5 waypoints and then I go to each one. And as someone who constantly, and I think the biggest surprise is that for me, I need the checklist. I need to, you know, complete quests and clear a quest log. And the fact that I don't need that in this game and I'm loving it is the biggest surprise.
Well, to be fair, you've made your own checklist.
Yeah.
So,
I made my own checklist, but it's not in the game.
Uh-huh.
so,
Right.
so when you
but
play,
also it's like I can't. If I had everything in my head, I would get stressed out.
totally.
But the fact is that like I'm keeping a running list of everything, and like I think as well talking to you, Tam, and talking to Dave Klein about NPCs and you know trying to get the best handle you can on the story. Like the fact that I have a running log of every interaction with NPCs is like really helping me get that extra layer of enjoyment. But also it's because simply I've never known how to relax.
So do you have your laptop open next to you as you play and like
Yeah.
cross-referencing, checking? I respect it. You can't knock the
Cat
hustle.
on one side, laptop on the other. It's not that I'm cross-referencing. It's literally like if I feel like an NPC is giving me a hint of something to do that will progress that next thing, I'll be like, okay, go kill this boss. You know?
Oh man.
And then like, oh, I might want a better shield, so find better shield.
Another early thing that happened was the talking tree. I don't know if you guys found that, but
No, what? That's awesome.
Oh yes, I did. I found
Yeah.
it. Is he? Yeah, he was in the network test.
oh, was he? I haven't
Yeah.
like done his quest or helped him out
Does
yet.
he
but
call
I-
you Cully? And I was like, I've never heard that word before.
Does he? He might. He just like he's like, why is no one looking at me?
Yeah.
How
he
come
does.
no one wants to look me in the eye? And then I won't say what you do, but that was kind of a cool surprise. You know, nothing on the map. I was just wandering around. I was actually playing multiplayer with Jean-Luc and Matt, and I was like, do you guys hear that? And they're like, hear what? And I'm like, there's someone here that I'm trying to talk to, but I cannot find him. And they're like, oh, I don't see anything.
Oh, I know exactly where he is now because that happened to me where I heard people like, "Oi," but like I couldn't find them anywhere.
Oh,
That's
I know who
so
you're talking
funny.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back there and check that out now.
Iron
that's
Fist
good.
Alexander.
Oh no, it's not him. It's the other
There's
one.
another one. Okay, great.
Yeah.
The other guy.
I'll text
Iron Fist Alexander is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I have
nice game.
subtitles on because it picks up NPC chat from quite far away. Because I don't think I would have heard Iron Fist Alexander if I hadn't got the subtitles on where he's like, oh, hello, could you help me?
I haven't found him yet.
I don't think I found him either.
Yeah, he's in the network test as well. But yeah, you can hear him calling out to you. He's interesting. Oh, wait, there's also I know who you're talking about now. Yeah.
Tam, what about you? What's the one surprising story that you've come across?
So I was wandering around, and I found this massive gravestone, which is like it towers above you. Looks like a sword in the ground. It goes high into the air, and it's surrounded by a lot of other swords around it. And I stared at it for a really long time, and I was like, that looks like something, and I'm wondering if it is the thing that it is, and it is. The massive sword in the ground is a gravestone, and it's designed to look like Guts' sword from Berserk.
Oh,
And the
sick.
swords around it are they represent the lost members of the Band of Hawks, which is the mercenary group that Guts joins at the start of Berserk. And that whole area is a monument to Kentaro Miura, who died
Aw.
shortly before the game was released. And Miyazaki is a super fan of Berserk. It's influenced his all of his games in a massive way.
Right.
And you can now also find a great sword, which is just a straight up replica of the Dragon Slayer from Berserk, which is Guts' main sword.
Mhm.
And like when I saw that, I was like close to tears. Like I was like,
Aw.
this is incredible. Like this man, like he's massively influenced by Mira's work, and the fact that you can see him kind of pay respects to an author that he believes, like seeing an author and a creator that you love pay respects to someone that they love is kind of like touching and special. So yeah, seeing that was pretty amazing.
Um, I don't have anything near that emotional. Well, I mean, I guess fear was the emotion that induced. But last night I was playing, and I found a chest, and a treasure chest. And when I opened it, I got transported across the map and stuck in this area
Fuck
that was
that place.
like full of rot.
Yeah.
I had to like sprint out of there, and like I finally got past this point where I was like trying to avoid getting the ick, only to stumble upon a town that's like full of sorcerers and just fucking wrecked me for like 45 minutes until I started figuring out patterns, and then like I also like summoned my dogs, my pack of wild dogs to roll around this town with me, and all of a sudden I was just doing loops around this town and getting like 2,500 to 3,000, what do we call them, echoes, runes, right?
Beans.
Beans. Yeah, and so like I was doing
Beans?
loops, yeah, beans, doing these loops,
Beans.
resting at the grace, doing another loop, and then all of a sudden I was just like leveling up and just annihilating these sorcerers in this place. And then as I was further exploring it, I found all these paths that led to the rooftops, that led to these bell towers, that opened these secret doors, and I was just like, man, I fucking love this game. It was so great. Like it was just the perfect kind of epitome of these games where like at first it was so frustrating and annoying and I was like, fuck this game, and then over the course of an hour I started getting better at it and finding more stuff, and then like I actually found some armor that I really love down there, and then I got out of there and resumed my quest. But like it was just such a, I would say like a reaffirming moment for me where I was like, yeah, this game is incredible. Like I was I was right all along.
This
Oh, Sour Laundry in the chat has a good question.
Oh yeah.
Talking about like you were talking about leveling there. We all talked about our starting classes, but ultimately in Elden Ring, you can spec the way you want. Sour Laundry says, if the Confessor isn't working for me, which class should I try instead?
I'm kind of curious why the Confessor isn't working for
Yeah.
you, Sour Laundry, because I'm playing as Confessor and I'm finding it's a really great mix of sword and board and magic. Once I found a staff that I could use to do some ranged magic attacks, like the ability for me to, I die a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's gonna happen anyway.
Yeah.
The ability to do like ranged magic attacks while I close in distance and then switch to sword and board and like take enemies down has been so awesome. I typically, like you said at the beginning, Jake, you always go with a dex build. I typically go strength and vigor, and endurance. And this time around, I was really trying to do something a little different and try to have like a more mixed up character. And I feel like so far I've been successful in that. I definitely need to start allocating more points into one thing or the other, but I'm getting to a point now where I'm starting to feel pretty comfortable with my build, or I was until I got into the first dungeon, and I'm just everything is killing me so hard. So
I think it depends, yeah, on like what you feel like your strengths are. Like, do you want to be in there with the sword, like up everyone's butt, hitting them from, or do you want to be a little more ranged, like maybe try with a bow and arrow, or if you want to try like magic. I am really enjoying magic this time around, but like I said, I do have the sword to kind of fall back on.
Don't do that.
We bit of the opposite. Played Dex all throughout Dark Souls, and now I'm playing Strength and Vigor from Saboteur.
Strength and vigor.
Strength and Vigor. So no, I think it just depends, and like you can experiment in a way, like see if there are any weapons you pick up or that the merchants have that you could find that you might be interested in. But it is a little bit more, I don't know, it feels a bit more flexible than
Yeah,
previous.
you can respec too. Apparently the item is pretty rare. I'm sure Tamor knows more on that, but
Yes,
there is
it's
an
not
option.
it's not you won't struggle to get the first respec option. As
Right.
if you're trying to play the game to if you're trying to experience all the key parts of the game, the key objectives in the game, at a certain point you will find the ability to do it. You can't escape it.
That's threatening.
Yeah.
That is a little. That is a little
Vaguely
threatening.
threatening. Yeah. I mean, it is a very threatening scenario, so
Oh.
yeah.
Okay. Here's a kind of a more general question.
Mm.
For the lads. What do you like best? What is the best part of this game so far?
What is
Sam,
the
you're
best?
much further than us. What's
Yeah.
your favorite part about Elden Ring?
I think it is. I mean, like, I feel like I expanded upon it much more in my review, but I think it's the open nature of it, like, and it's really tricky to kind of not highlight why it's special because people naturally want to draw a comparison point to other open world games. They're like, oh, what makes it any better than Zelda or Horizon or fucking any number of Assassin's Creed games? And the difference is like the way I think of it is like I describe it as a common phrase used quite often is design by reduction. And I think
Mm.
like open world games are currently, as I said in my review, people think that because it's an open world, players are too dumb to figure that out. So we need to over design and over communicate and over signal every single little thing.
Oh my god.
And I absolutely despise that. It's something that was fine in the early days, but currently, if you give me an open world game, I don't care if it's the greatest thing ever created. If you're creating systems that are like, here's a thing to do, here's a thing to do, here's a thing to do, here's an icon, here's an icon. You go here and it will make you go here, 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 and here. And that's how we guide the player through our open world. I think that is the most boring thing that you could ever create. Like it's so for me, like I've reached a point where I feel like it defeats the point of an open world, if you get what I mean.
Mm.
Like here's an entire world. Now you shuffle through it and do the things that we've told you are in here. And that's I hate that in modern open world games, whereas I think that Elden Ring is quite bold because it makes decisions and is designed in a way that everyone in traditional or most big game companies would tell you, would focus test into the point to tell you like you can't do this, this is a mistake, your game will not be sold. And that's kind of like perfect because that team has been told since the beginning of time and beginning of them making these games that these games won't sell, they're not for people, they're designed badly, etc., etc. And they've at every step of the way been like, we're going to do it anyway because it's our vision, and they stuck to it, and they've given us some of the greatest games of all time. And the fact that they stuck to that ethos in designing this game, knowing that it's the fact that they are able to trust players to understand that the vision was to for you to explore and not to guide you through every single little thing, the ability to or the self-confidence to create a world where you can miss pretty much everything, like that takes some boldness, man. And that is so impressive for me. Like I love that. Like it's a game that feels like an MMO, even though it isn't an MMO. It's a game that feels infinite, even though it is clearly finite. But every time you stumble upon something, you feel like you're the only person to see that. When actually, there's a chance like a few, hundreds of thousands of other people see that. But you still want to turn to the next person and be like, "Did you fight this boss battle?" And they're like, "Yeah, I thought that." They don't go, "Yeah, obviously," and then move on. They're like, you quickly like you develop a connection and you talk about it and you're like, "Yeah, I did this, this, and this, and this." It's just I think it's one of the smartest designed games, and it's designed entirely with the mindset that less is more, and it's just so good.
To that point, I mean, Horizon, coming off of Horizon straight into this, but also 5 years ago, coming off of the first Horizon into Breath of the Wild, like similar philosophies where it's like overdone, handheldy. And I think Forbidden West in a way is much worse because they really don't trust the player, and it gets to the point where it turns me off because I don't need to be told that I should scan something with my focus. I don't need to be told that I should check out what's up on that hill, you know? And I think who was it who just said it? Sour Laundry, yeah, they should make it an option. Like if you're playing an open world game, you should have the option to turn that off. And like I remember an old Tomb Raider from I think it was the 2012 one or the 2014 one, where you could turn off her internal monologue and explore it. And I really hope that a lot of publishers and devs take note that a game can be as obtuse and just like not handholdy at all as Elden Ring and still sell well and still obviously be one of the best reviewed games of all time.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a cynicism that comes from modern open world games that permeates literally everything, from the way that it's designed, laid out, to even the writing. Like, even when you're writing a character, there's not enough trust in the player to just make Aloy quiet down a bit. Just shh.
I mean, like not to rag on
Yeah,
Horizon
or
like too much
it's
because
same for,
but
like Watch Dogs, Assassins, everything.
Yeah.
Like you're staring at a chest and the character will go, "There's a chest there." It's like, no
Yeah.
fucking.
It's the Ubisoftication in a weird way. Like in terms of like open world map design.
Meanwhile,
certainly, like,
yeah. Meanwhile, in Elden Ring or for Dark Souls game, it will say big chest ahead, time for finger and butthole, and you're
Yeah.
like, great, I understand that.
yeah, and I'm on that level. But no, like I've never been the biggest fan of Horizon. Like I'm enjoying Forbidden West a lot more. But I remember thinking at the time, and Tam, you and I have talked about this, is like it felt like it was designed cynically because the things as well as you're balancing a new property, and you don't want to do anything that will turn off a player. You want to make it as mass market as possible. And Horizon for me is very much the kind of the prime example of that. It's
Yeah, and
like,
to be clear, Horizon 1 and 2 are like very fun games. Like
Fun.
they are
Love
great
'em.
games in their own respect. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, Maria's right. Not needing to ping to scan for items and actually having to look is another thing that I enjoy so much. And I think as well, obviously it's like, yes, you have the notes and the messages from other players, and that I think is so much more fun because obviously you're also trying to like see what's fake and what's real. Also, as a side note, are there illusory walls in this?
Yes.
Okay. I keep getting. I haven't found a single one,
Fake
but I
wall
have
ahead
been
or whatever.
tricked.
Liar, liar,
Liar
liar,
head.
right here. Yeah,
I
I
have
love
been
it.
lied to by so many, but like
There's some like clearly like perilous jumps and
Try jumping.
try jumping.
Yeah, I got.
To
So,
kind of
like not having a ping to
Yeah.
the stuff and actually having to look for it is so nice, so refreshing.
to kind of build off what you both were saying though, I like one of the main draws I feel like Dark Souls had was that it was a rejection of modern game design, or at least game design at the time, and I think that's why it works so well. And in many ways Elden Ring feels like that, but it's not a rejection of action games, it's more of a rejection of open world games. And I know there are examples like Legend of Zelda which kind of did it before, but like seeing a team like From Software kind of take on that sort of open-ended style of gameplay and like what they came up with just makes so much sense for that developer, but it's also so surprising in many ways. And I think like another point too, like that I was thinking a lot, and you know, typically whenever I play these Souls games, I always think of, it's just like this game doesn't feel focus tested, at least in the way that most AAA games I imagine go through, right? Like,
Well, I mean, the fact that you can like, I was talking earlier, like I did the class guide. I walked past that tutorial 5 times.
yeah,
And
like,
didn't know it was there.
yeah.
Any other game, it would have been like, go, like
Yeah.
flashing lights, like go.
Here's a
tutorial.
marker. Here's like, we're gonna bathe that area in light so it stands out to you and all that kind of stuff.
Not to beat a dead horse here, but I played the opening hours of Horizon the night before Elden Ring came out. I finally got
You
it.
really surprised me when you texted me that you had it downloading. I was like,
Yeah, I mean, look, I got a code. You know, like I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Like my thing with Horizon was like, I thought the first game was fine, and I'm interested to see what they do in a sequel, but I wasn't gonna pay full price for it, right? And so, when I, you know, had the opportunity, I jumped in and started playing it, and I can't imagine a more different experience from the two games, I mean, at their core, you know, two open world games. Like it's really surprising to me, just how perfectly it highlights the issues that we're talking about, right? Because like in Horizon, it's literally like, okay, next we have to do this, and then while you're doing that thing, they're saying, okay, we're doing this now, and then when you finish it, they're like, great, we did this, and it's like, oh my god, okay. But I think that, you know, we kind of started this conversation, this topic, by talking about what your favorite thing about this game is thus far, and I think that my favorite thing about Elden Ring so far is like the sort of cyclical design philosophy behind it. Like, I think when Breath of the Wild came out, a lot of people looked at that and said like, wow, they really looked at Dark Souls and took a lot of notes, right? Like, Link can parry and dodge, and you know, there's all these, you know, it's really difficult and it doesn't tell you a ton. Like, and I think that this game is in conversation with that game so clearly. Like, obviously, there's not a single review that has come before or has come out that hasn't mentioned Breath of the Wild, and like, I think for good measure, because they're doing a lot of the same things, right? Like, the way that they just kind of cut you loose and let you explore and give you the ability to like mark things and go and find out for yourself, I think is really interesting. But then you even get down to like the way that you find small dungeons, right? Like the catacombs there's one puzzle to solve and then one boss, and like that's so similar to what was happening in Breath of the Wild. And then even I was even thinking about this, but like, you guys fight the cat boss, the cat man with the big sword, and he shoots fire. He shows up a few different times. I fought him a few times, and it reminded me so much of the robots from the Trials of Strength in Breath of the Wild, where it was like, he moves very slowly in one direction and then he chops or he swipes, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it is very much like a similar concept. Elden Ring is Breath of the Wild. Elden Ring is Breath of the Wild if it got laid in high school. That's a great way to put it, Matt. But I think the thing that Elden Ring has over Breath of the Wild, and the thing that obviously everyone lamented in their criticism of Breath of the Wild, was like, yeah, it's great, but there's no dungeons, right? Like, yeah, it's great, but like, part of the reason we love Zelda is for dungeons, and this very clearly has that. Like, I just got to the first legacy dungeon, and it's massive, and there's so much to do and see and figure out. And I think that like, the way that these two games complement each other is probably my favorite thing about it. Breath of the Wild is my favorite game of all time. I think it's probably one of the greatest games ever made, if not the greatest. And I think that obviously Elden Ring is like right there with it. So
yeah, I think one of the cool things too about like these dungeons, they're much smaller than Dark Souls dungeons. They're, for the most part, there's some longer ones, but they're usually much shorter. So they kind of, you can tell they're able to experiment with different like ideas for a very short period of time. So like, I found a poison cave, and initially I was like, there's just like poison everywhere, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this, because I know from experience that whenever there's poison, it's always a trek. But I was like, I'm just gonna see at least how far I can get, and I made it to the end. But it was like a really well designed bite-sized experience with like a fucking dope boss at the end too. Like, I was not expecting to fight a boss that cool at the end of this like little short dungeon, but it is really cool just seeing them sort of like flex their variety, their like design variety in all these different dungeons around the world.
Dude, boss runs not being like 30 seconds plus is such a, like, if you're talking about quality of life, like, I appreciate them and I like them, but the fact that in Elden Ring, just, you know, you die and then it's like, oh, I'm right outside, I'll just pop up, and it's like, it feels so good. And it's like, ordinarily, you know, that time, if I had to, you know, get annoyed and do a really annoying boss run, it would sometimes like turn me off from wanting to continue. But the fact that it's really just like one more, it just promotes it even more. It's so good.
Yeah, I think that it's funny because Lucy had some criticisms, not criticisms, but she had some things to say about my attitude when it comes to boss fight.
I was like, Right,
Yeah,
Chrissy. That's good.
during that fight with the hammer man, I was getting fucking pissed. And like she asked me in a very sweet and very Lucy James way, she was like, "Hey," before the game came out,
Well, hold on. Do a British accent, please.
no, absolutely not. On
You've
Saturday,
got
do you?
permission. You've got
No,
permission.
I won't do it. On Saturday, do you want to come over and we'll set up like, two TVs and we can play Elden Ring together? And I said, no. If I'm being honest, no. Like, I like to play these games alone because I get fucking mad. And she saw a little bit of that firsthand on Friday night when I was fighting this boss and I was getting very annoyed. And it also didn't help that like she came in and did so much better at this fight than me. And I straight up told her, I was like, that's annoying. I guess annoying that you're better at
You
this than me.
did.
Yeah.
I was just like, because I got in a really good rhythm with him where I was just like landing backstabs. I like got him on the like pretty far down, and Zach just went, "That's annoying." I was like, "Why?" And he was like, "Cause you might beat him." And I was like, so every time I had one go, he had like 4.
I had 3. Yeah. I'm bad at these games. Like I'm not good at these games. And like to give you an example, like I'm keeping tallies of how many attempts it takes me to beat bosses, right? So the first boss in the
Oh,
game
that's
took me
cool.
the
I might
first
start
boss in
doing
the game took me 19 attempts. It took me 19 tries to beat that boss. And I'm just, I learn by throwing myself against the wall. And all of this to say that I think that this game is less frustrating than the majority so far is less frustrating than the majority of the Souls games that I've played. Like certainly less frustrating than Sekiro thus far. And when things happen, like last night I was in an area that I kept dying by, I'll say, mechanism. There's one particular thing that kept killing me that I couldn't figure out the pattern for. And when I finally figured it out, I was like laughing about it because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here or how I'm triggering this thing to like absolutely kill me, but it is. And then when I figured it out, it was like, that's amazing. Like that's so smart and I love it. Like that's so great. So yeah,
Does
I
it get?
think that it's sorry, go ahead, Lucy.
No, I was gonna ask if like you're however many hours in times 70 hours. Like, are you finding? Does the pacing change? Does it kind of hold?
No, it still holds. Like in terms of difficulty, it remains that way. The pacing doesn't really change. You're in control of the pacing yourself. I will say it does have like a defeat Ganon situation where like at a certain point very early in at the 30-hour mark for most people, you can end the game, like and just be like, all right, I'm done. But you leave on the table like so much more of it. But yeah, it doesn't really change that rhythm is all kind of up to you, where you can take on a big boss or you can go around and explore through the small dungeons. I really like the feeling of doing loads and loads and loads of side stuff and building my character up and then walking into a bigger area and just being like kind of super powerful up until the boss of that area where it becomes tricky. And that allows you to kind of like focus on the environment and focus on the tricky, interesting like intricacies of an area instead of being so fixated on every battle with a random enemy being an uphill struggle. I feel like that kind of rhythm is way more interesting. But yeah, it stays as is. Like the game that it is now is at the start of the game anyway is pretty much what it is when you get to the latter half of the game. But yeah, it maintains what it is, and the difficulty in fact like kind of goes up and down a bit. But there are moments where they do interesting things with boss fights that you might not expect, which are kind of fun. There's quite a few gimmick bosses, if you get what I mean. Especially if you played Demon Souls and yeah.
Tam freaked me out because I've not finished Sekiro ever. I've never finished it. I've just never had the patience to do it because I think it's fucking hard as hell. And when I was texting him about it when he was originally like early playing the game, he was like, "This is the hardest FromSoft game. Like,
Yeah.
This is the hardest one." And I was like, "Fuck!" Like, Demon Souls is so much more my shit than Sekiro or Dark Souls, and like I want to get to the end of this game. I want to experience it in the way that I want to. And I was like, does this mean that I won't be able to finish this game? But I will say the way that it balances the difficulty and introduces people to its systems and lets people try different things is amazing. And I think one of the things that I've had a hard time with playing it so far is like I've had a real hard time separating myself from an area or a boss and being like, okay, I'll go level up and come back later, because that's just not how I play Souls games. And so I'll find myself like why have I been doing this for an hour? I'll just go somewhere else and come back, and that's something that I have to like train my brain to do. But I agree with you, Tam. Like I do think it's the most challenging, but I also think it's the most accessible is not the right word. Approachable, I guess. And the way that you can make a game like that work is so brilliant, like so smart.
Yeah, I think when I fought Margit for the first time, I was like, this feels like a big fuck you to the people who've played Dark Souls and Bloodborne, because this is hard. Like, obviously, I'm expecting a challenge,
Yeah.
but like, I was like, this is brutal. There's no way I can do this right now unless I like sit here for hours and memorize all of his patterns perfectly. Because he was like one-shotting me. But part of it's my fault because I didn't invest in vigor because I'm like, I'm doing all decks. But like then it occurred to me, I was like, there's so much of this map. Like I'm just gonna go out and explore it, and that's what I did. Like rather than banging my head against the wall, I just explored a lot, found some other easier bosses, some tougher bosses that I managed to get through, and then came back and was like, all right, you're going down, and like took them down pretty easily. But like that, I really like that sort of loop too, because to some extent I feel like people were doing that anyway in Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, where it's like you get to a boss really hard. Not everyone maybe is as stubborn as I am, and they are turning around and going back and just grinding soul level, upgrading their gear and stuff just to fight that again. And I like that, like, when you do that now, you are like seeing new things, exploring new areas, like finding new creatures. And like to some extent you were able to do that in Dark Souls, right? Like there were always secret spots that you could go to, sometimes alternate paths you could take, but like to have this big open world just kind of waiting for you in between boss fights is awesome.
Maria has a great question, which is like talking about the bosses. Like, Tam, how do you feel about the comparisons to Dark Souls 2 in terms of number and style of the mini bosses?
I don't remember as much of Dark Souls 2 as other games, honestly. Like, I think the interesting thing about Dark Souls 2 was it started to be the first game in that. I mean, it's the second game that they released, but like it started to be a little more aware of how players play their games after Dark Souls 1. And I think like the boss that really signified that was the Flexile Sentry, which is like the first or second boss that you fight, where it had swords. It had swords up front. Say if you're standing in front of it, it could hit you with a sword. It's on a natural Dark Souls strategy is to circle strafe around to their back. But if you went to the back, it had swords back there as well, so it would hit you there as well. So it was like you had no like the traditional approach was like completely unviable. You had to get good at like dodging properly and picking your moments, looking for the openings, getting in, attacking and getting out, and using dodge roll iframes a bit as well. I think this game is more aware of how people play these games. You get characters or bosses like that are very aggressive, and they do sweeping attacks that will reach behind as well and attack there, or they're more aggressive about chasing you down to give you less time to kind of like set up ranged attacks, or even there's some bosses that are like, oh, I'm not going to let you heal. Like I'm gonna make you really fight for those heals, and the only way to heal is like I've got to knock them back first and then create the space to heal. But that ends up like you end up healing in front of their face in just like a short window that is safe. And there's like a thrill to that is like quite unique to it. It does feel in the way that I guess like this is gonna sound like a criticism, but I don't mean it like that way. Like there are bosses that you will see, oh, this is kind of not a throwaway boss, but like you're based on this lineage of bosses. There's a certain group of bosses that are like very similar in style and in like aesthetic. But the thing that's interesting about them is, yes, they are basically the same boss in different forms. They are contextualized in a way that it makes sense that the way that they are the way they are because they're in these certain types of activities each time, and you're like, oh, it makes sense that you would be here and you would be the kind of boss that is here. So from that perspective, I could see some similarities between it, but I feel like they do kind of repeated bosses and boss design way better than any of the other games, excluding Sekiro, out of it. Like everyone feels unique or interesting in some way.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought here, gang. I've been texting about a dog.
All good. I can jump in there because I was curious if anyone, to more specifically, if you had messed around with multiplayer at all.
So I played a bit, very, very small amount of multiplayer. I haven't played much. Like I did a little bit on Friday just to get like help Mark on our guides team, get some screenshots and stuff. It's like as obtuse as it always has been. And like I don't really care. Like that's never something like I considered it in like my review phase. Like it's still a review in progress, but it's not something that I'm gonna mark the review down for. Like I feel like if you have an interest in multiplayer in the way that you kind of want it to be, like it's very easy to figure out. Yeah, it's not as easy as region matchmaking and that kind of stuff. There's a little more intricacies to it, but at the same time, like I play these games very isolated, very solitary, at least the first time, and that's fine for me. And when I do try and figure it out, it's easy. And like I kind of like the way that they do it. Like I know it's not ideal, I know it's not easy, but like I love that it's based in the world, and you like there's
Oh, I do
something
too.
magical about like looking down at the ground and seeing like your friend's name like written into the ground, and then summoning them up, and they're like pulled in from a different world. There's a pageantry to it that is not, you know, player friendly or user friendly or streamlined, sure, but like it's unique and it's memorable and it's of its own ilk, you know. And there's no chat unless you're in an actual like private voice chat, so like using the gesture based system to kind of bow to each other if it's PvP, or like, you know, bow when you're
For
thanking
joy
them.
and
Like it's so good. I love that.
Would you call it Matt pageantry?
No, I wouldn't. Why would I do that?
This is the first Souls game that I mean, we can call it a Souls game, right? This is the first. You're welcome, Matt. This is the first Souls game that I have entertained the idea of multiplayer in the traditional sense. Whereas before, like I said, like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, it's always been like a very solitary experience for me. Like I think it just like, you know, it just kind of fits with the lore, right? Like I'm a lone warrior doing this thing by myself. I don't necessarily want to have people summoned in and help out. Not to say that I haven't done it. There have been a couple of bosses throughout all the Souls games where I'm like, okay, fuck this, I'm bringing somebody in. But this game to me specifically feels like the one that I'm like, okay, I think running around as like a fellowship would be really fucking cool in this particular, you know, instance. But-
Fellowship of the Elden Ring.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I played a couple hours of it with Matt and Jean-Luc, and it was like all these games, it was a little bit of a pain to figure out. Like I had to Google like, all right, what items do I need? I will say it's a little more like you have an infinite amount of resources that you need to summon people, unlike I think Dark Souls 2, where like you could run out of human effigies and then that was just it. Actually, there may be ways to get it, but it seems easier to invite people, and having like a whole party in the open world is pretty fun. It's still pretty segmented though, in that like this area is kind of closed off. Once you beat the boss of this area, your friend's gonna go, and then you're gonna have to resummon them. But I'm kind of like you guys in that like I don't want to do co-op, at least for my first playthrough for my main game, but I really enjoyed co-op in Dark Souls 3 because you actually did feel like a party. Like you'd have a healer on your team who'd go and do faith, and they'd have like AoE heals that would kind of back you up. You'd have someone who specialized in ranged attacks, and then someone closer who would basically, you know, pull enemies and have a big sword. So I'm very excited to like actually really dig into the multiplayer in this game, more so than I would say the other games, just because of that extra level of exploration, along with a lot of the multiplayer advancements they made in Dark Souls 3.
I'm so annoyed that I got it on Xbox. I wish that I would have got it on PlayStation because everybody that
Hey, I'm on Xbox. You can join me.
nice. Okay, great. That's awesome to know because like I feel like everybody that I know is playing it on PlayStation. I'm in a Discord with a bunch of folks that are playing it right now, and they're all sharing like photos of their squad, and they're like, "We're having such a great time," and I'm like, just over here on Xbox being sad by myself,
Yeah.
getting squashed by Margit 100 times.
Did you get it on Xbox because you could change your region to New Zealand and play like 15 hours
No.
early? Because that's what I did.
I've been playing all third-party games on Xbox this generation.
Oh,
I
okay.
just like I really like Xbox's. I like the way that a lot of those games run. I like the way I like Xbox's UI. Like I prefer it this gen. So I've been playing a lot of third-party stuff there, and PlayStation has been mostly like a first-party machine for me. So
Yeah.
Oh no,
The
man,
interest-
he's in a separate Discord. He's cheating on our Discord with another Discord.
oh, I'm in.
Look at me, I've got multiple friend circles. Ooh.
Not in real life. Like we never want to hang out in person. Like we only want to talk to each other on the internet. You know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, the topic of discussion, the elephant in the room, is like performance which is kind of crazy. And like a lot of people have reached out to me and been like, "Why didn't you say anything about this?" And it's weird because I had none of it. Like I had no issues whatsoever. I don't know if there's something that happened post-release, like the amount of people and like internet infrastructure has caused it to a degree, but I had no like stuttering, no like noticeable frame drops on PlayStation or PC. I'm running a 3090, and like I was very confused by the response to it, and like this is I had to like check myself and think back to when I was playing the game, and in all the discussions I had with, like, for example, Andy Cortez or Michael Joe or anything like that, other people that are playing it, like, frame rates never came up as an issue ever. Like, at most with Andy, I acknowledged it and was like, "Oh, is your frame dipping here and there?" But he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, it's only if I spin the camera, like, super fast in an area that's, like, really densely detailed.
Yeah.
And it's not, like, a bad dip. It's just, like, a slight microsecond of a hitch, and then it, like, it's fine." But the stuff that people are going through seems like way more widespread, and like there's frame lag and frame drops and that kind of stuff. And
I
like
have not. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
and like I had none of it. Like, and it's very strange. I'm still on like the pre-release build, so maybe that's something that's helping me out. Like if I converted it, which you're supposed to do, convert it to the retail one, maybe they say that it will patch, and then maybe that's what's causing issues. But it's been smooth for me, and I felt for people who are like, "Why didn't you say anything about it?" And it's like, it wasn't my experience. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, so I got on Xbox, but when I played multiplayer, we did some PC, or I was doing PC, and I just noticed some frame dips here and there, but I didn't notice anything egregious. But you know, like you were saying, like with PC, your mileage can definitely vary. I've got a 2080 Ti, pretty new build, so
Yeah. I mean, I'm on PS5 and I'm getting it's mostly like open world when it rains,
Yeah,
and
that's what I was gonna say.
it's making me feel a bit motion sick because that's what kicks me off, is like if it's not a steady frame rate. But yeah, I agree with Tam. Like when I was playing before they patched it, it was much better, and then I think they've patched something that's gone a bit. Ooh.
I think they said they have another patch plan to address some of those issues, right?
Yeah,
for next week.
for sure.
Goob Shoot Riot says texture pop is the worst I got, and like, yeah, I've noticed a lot of texture pop in, and I hadn't really.
Yeah, I don't have any of that.
I hadn't really had a ton of frame issues until last night. I was in a forest with a bunch of enemies, and it was raining, and then all of a sudden it was like 15 to 20 frames per second. It was really bad. But I mean, I think a funny thing is like I've noticed people talking shit about the frame rate on Twitter and stuff like that, but it's like, y'all remember Breath of the Wild when it came out? y'all remember that frame rate?
Wait, I'm sorry, you don't remember Dark Souls 3 when it came out?
Yeah.
That was another game though, because I did get I played that game early on PC, and I think I had a 970 at the time, and I didn't really run into any issues while during that review phase. But then when it came out, I remember seeing all this stuff, and I was like, man, I haven't experienced any of this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is PC being PC.
PC gonna PC?
Yeah.
One more thing before we start wrapping up here. I just kind of want to, we talked a little about the frame rate, but is there anything that jumps out to you as something that you're not super in love with in this game? Is there anything that is really grinding your gears when you're sitting down to play Elden Ring?
I have one tiny thing. If I hit the touchpad to go to the map, I should be able to hit the touchpad to get out of the map.
Oh, that's weird.
And it annoys me every time because I hit the touchpad and I hit it again and it brings up the FAQ menu. I was like, no, I just want to get out of this. I want to quickly get in the map, look at it, and then get back out. Okay. Also, I'm finding a rhythm with. We haven't really talked about torrent. I love,
Always make sure you seed. Thank you.
Oh shit! Always make sure you golden seed. No, torrent is like I love riding around on him. I love how quick and easy it is to like call him in, get rid of him. Horseback combat is like taking me a little bit of time to get used to. I remember in the network test I really didn't vibe with it, but now Vati's video came out and like he dropped a couple hints in there on like how best to do it, and I've been experimenting with it a little bit more, and I've been relying on it a little bit more, especially when like things get a bit hairy, and yeah, that's the one thing that's a bit more of a grower for me.
Fight the dragon on horseback if you haven't yet already, because that helped me a lot. I think just
Yeah.
because I mean, I'm sure you could do that fight on foot, but I just didn't even want to try because I saw how big those fire attacks are. I think I died a couple times. I waited a while before I fought him, but like that fight does, at least for me, kind of force me to be consistent with hitting things on horseback. But that fight on horseback also, as I said before, is awesome. Is so cool.
Yeah. I feel like maybe that's the kind of check to teach you,
Yeah, maybe.
like that horseback fighting is viable.
Yeah.
Although I was fighting a boss, I can't remember which cave I was in. It let me summon Torrent in the middle of a cave, and I
In
was
the
like,
underground area, because
"What is that?"
Yeah, it will
there's some
do that.
huge areas underground.
Yeah. No, this room wasn't big though.
Oh,
And I
really?
was like,
Yeah, you
It
can
was-
summon like them, and also the Ashes summons as well that
Yeah.
are great.
my sweet boy, my sweet boys, my sweet wolf boys. I did get the jellyfish though. which I'm
Jellyfish
excited-
is a fucking tank. Like it doesn't do
Yeah.
a lot of damage, but it will take a beating. Like,
Yeah,
it's,
I know.
it's so slow though.
Baclaw was saying that he really likes the jelly boys.
Yeah, they're great if you find them in the world because they're just normal jellyfish, and then they get angry and they turn red, and you're like, oh, the jellyfish is angry.
Jellyfish
You'll
is
run
angry.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, I ran into a bunch of them in a graveyard, and I was like, "Oh, I don't want to hit you guys. Oh shit, you guys are hitting me. Okay, I'll take out these jellies."
I think probably my two biggest gripes are like I don't like the horseback combat. I've had like a real hard time trying to, especially like the knights that are on horses and stuff, like trying to track around them has been like a real bummer for me. And maybe it's just like a lack of experience, and I'll get better at it with time. But yeah, it drives me nuts to have to fight enemies on horseback. And the other thing, and I know that this is sacrilegious, and I'm kind of curious to hear what you guys think. I do wish that things were telegraphed like 10% better. I think that one of the things that I really dig is like occasionally you'll find these statues of like crones that if you examine them, they'll show you like, hey, there's a dungeon here, right? Like they'll shoot like a little blue light out that's like, check, under here for a catacomb or whatever, and that's been really cool. But like as I'm exploring, I can't shake this feeling that I'm like constantly missing stuff. Like I'm in the areas where I'm exploring, I'm really trying to like zigzag through these paths, like across, and like make sure that I see everything, but like I can't help but forget it. And like I just wish that there was some torches lit that will show you like, hey, look over here or something like that. Like, and I get that that's like
Tam's face, by the way, when you're
no,
saying
I
this.
know, I know, and I get that that's like totally not a From Software thing, but I think that the only place that Breath of the Wild might ultimately have the edge over this game is that it's infinitely more approachable. Like it's such a more approachable game because it's right in between of this like not overly obtuse, but like the obtuseness of Elden Ring, but also like gives you that same sense of discoverability, that same sense of like that eureka moment. But that's the only thing to me. I know it is sacrilege, but I do wish that if there was catacombs nearby or something, that there might be some indicator or some clue that would like guide your eyes that way, because a lot of times it's just like a door in a dark ass like rock formation and you're like, oh, I wouldn't have seen that, so
Yeah, just some ghost like dabbing in the direction of a catacomb.
I don't know that I necessarily need one of those, but
Dabbing ghosts.
Dabbing ghosts.
My gripe, I guess, is kind of similar to that, but instead it's like kind of more focused on the side quests and stuff. I don't want to know where to go for the side quests. I don't want to know who to talk to necessarily. I just want like a place where I can recap like what I've done so far, because they're definitely
Previously on Elden Ring.
Exactly, that sort of thing. No, I don't know, just like a journal, like almost like an in-game journal that your character keeps that's like, I talked to this character or something. Is
Let me
there
tell you
one?
about Notion.
Let me tell you about
yeah,
my.
okay. Yeah, that's what it is. Because there's some quests that I've done that I'm like, wait, that guy told me to do something, but I don't remember what it was. Like I really want to do the
I think the way you could get around that is like a recap conversation button. Because like you can
Yeah.
have sometimes you go up to a person and be like, this person told me something, and you press it on them, and they're like, I'm not repeating myself, motherfucker.
They're like,
Yeah,
why are
shut
you
up,
still
get out of
here?
here.
Once is all I'm getting. Yeah.
Well, I shared my template with you all yesterday in the Discord, so please be excited.
There's that one character you have to snap to summon that I really like, and I want to make sure I do his.
Right.
Yeah, I want to make sure I do his thing, but I, for the life of me, don't remember what he told me to do. And
I've got his helm.
Oh,
So
really?
fucking good. Yes.
I've seen people in the world like the ghosts wear it, and I was like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
But I want to.
Once you get to, if you need to know where it is, let me know. I'll tell you.
Okay, yeah, because I haven't looked it up quite yet, but I want to make sure. Because is it similar to other Souls games in that like once you beat a certain boss, like you're just gonna get locked out of those quest lines? I imagine it is.
There are quest lines that you can get locked out of. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, like just something very elegant and simple that doesn't give too much away, but just something that I can like reference me like, oh yeah, he wanted me to look for this guy.
Simple and clean.
That's probably the main thing for me. I think an issue that I was having early on too was trying to find smithing stones or weapon shards.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm having that right now.
Yeah, so
Like literally before we jumped on the call, I was telling Lucy, I was like, I gotta find. Like I have a bunch of level 2 and 3 smithing stones, but I need level 1. Like what the fuck?
yeah, so there's a cave. There's some caves that have them respawn on walls that I found out way too late.
They don't respawn.
Oh, they
They
don't respawn? I
Yeah,
thought
I
No,
just
no,
went
no,
back-
no, no,
I
no,
just
no.
went
Alright.
back to that cave and there's none in there.
Then never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the issue I've been running into. Because in the other ones, you would just grind enemies, and I've seen enemies drop them, but it seems
Yeah, some of the-
pretty uncommon.
Yeah, some of the other the common like overworld zombie type guys drop smithing stones occasionally. So yeah.
Good game.
Yeah, there's
though.
a place right near where you start where I don't know if you've seen it. There's a cave there.
Oh, yeah. The Limestone
is-
Tavern.
No,
I don't think
it's
I've been there. Then.
called. It's like shit, I've got it in my brain, but it's like right near the castle. It's like further down there, and it's just designed. It's like tunnel, not limestone tunnels or
Limgrave
something,
tunnels.
something like that. Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
like
no,
the
that's
Limgrave
the one they're
tunnels or
talking
something.
about. They don't respawn.
Matt says there's a way to buy them eventually too.
Hell yeah.
Yes,
So-
But I need them right now.
Yeah, because
I
I
want them right now.
I had my starting dagger, which I like didn't particularly like, but I was using it, and I found other weapons that I wanted to use, but I was like, I've already used the smithing stones I found on this dagger, and I need to find more, and I was having trouble.
yeah. I have not unlocked a way to buy them. I know there is, but I've just not run into that yet.
Yeah, but then I killed a certain boss who didn't want me to kill him, but I did it anyway, and got a +7 spear at the beginning of the game. So there's
Damn.
definitely that option. Haven't been as worried.
That's very impressive. Well, should we wrap it up?
Let's go play
we've
Elden
all-
Ring.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, should we get back to the lands between? Before we go, is there anything that anybody wants to recommend? I know that we typically close out, and this is a bonus episode, but that we typically close out with a little, suggestion. Anybody got anything that they want to throw out there?
Genius on Netflix. If you
No, I was going to suggest that too.
okay, yeah, is that... I haven't seen the
Yeah.
second episode yet, but the 1st
I've
one
seen.
was
I'm on the
really good.
third one, and it is. Whew, it's fucking good, man. It is.
Is that the
fucking
Kanye
good.
thing?
Yeah, yeah. It's so good. It's also heartbreaking.
It is.
If you want to try and understand why Kanye is the way that he is today, just watch that first episode. Like,
God.
he's always been this way. I think that it was downplayed and he kind of kept it, inside. But
Yeah.
man,
But
that first episode is wild.
Yeah, I mean, like the stuff that he goes through, they're like, if you need convincing that he's a musical genius, watch that show. Like, I didn't need convincing. Like, for all his faults, I never doubted him for a second that when he said, I'm a genius, I was like, yeah, you are. But when he said, I am God, that's what I was like, maybe not, bro.
Yeah. Got to draw the
yeah.
line somewhere.
Yeah.
That scene with him and the Rockefeller Records when he's
Heartbreaking.
playing All Falls Down and just
And none of them give a shit.
No one,
No
and
one
it's
cares.
like that song is
Unbelievable.
amazing, like incredible, and like I watching it, I kind of asked myself, I was like, man, if I was in that position, how would I respond if someone played that? And like, obviously, I'm like, no, that song fucking rules. Like, if I heard that, I'd be like,
Yeah.
holy shit, we need to sign this guy right now.
I
But
think-
like, yeah,
I think the way I saw it, and I saw it, and then like I replied to you, is like a lot of people not willing to put their ego
career,
aside,
ego,
put their
yeah.
ego aside to recognize that this man has basically like fucking leapfrogged their talent in a moment, and like he's nobody. He's come out of nowhere, and he's like honest because he rolled up with an almost finished version of All Falls Down, like that.
And he was
is
working
like-
on Jesus Walks too.
He
at
was
the time.
working on Jesus Walks, one of the greatest songs ever created. He is the only person to create a song about Jesus that gets bumped in the clubs. Like, that's insane. Imagine going to the club and everyone shouting Jesus Walks. That's insane. But like the fact that they weren't, and it was like, what do you call it? Dame Dash just not willing to give the man his due. Like, and the reason he wouldn't do that is because Dame Dash would have had to admit, like, this dude is fucking leaps and bounds generations better than every artist I have, and I have to accept the fact that like this street shit isn't the only thing that we can do. And like over time people got to it, and when he released College Dropout, like changed the game. And you get to see him like first part of episode 1, he's like, I'm gonna change the game with this album. And he just goes and does it, and then he does it again and again and again, like 5 times, like 4 times if you count like 808s and Heartbreaks, as well as My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Like, I've been listening to Kanye nonstop, and I'm just like,
Me too, yeah. I've been
Yeah,
listening
I
to a
as
lot of
well.
Kanye.
like I tweeted about this, like recognizing that he's in a much different place. Like, I hope we do get a new Kanye, and I hope it's one that is like a better place, someone that you realize what the loss of his mother, what his mother meant to him, like keeping him on the ground. And the moment he was clearly not looking after his mental health, he was relying on his mother for it to keep him grounded. And the moment she passed is when he started to unhinge, and then he got caught up in the circus that is like the social media, the Kardashian family, and that kind of stuff. And I feel like the music industry has been particularly brutal to him as well. And I feel like they're gonna look back at him and be like, we ruined that man in his peak in a lot of ways.
I will say though that as with a lot of documentaries, like take for instance the what was the name of the Michael Jordan
yeah.
Bulls documentary from a couple years ago. This is produced by Kanye's like production company.
Yeah.
So take it with a grain of salt. We might not be getting the whole story, like,
but also like I've had loads of people tweet me about that. Also, like, as far as I know, as someone who's like kept up to date on his career and the ins and outs, and researched him and like read a lot of stories about him before any of this stuff happened, it's fairly accurate in terms of like it checks out. It's not like it's presenting him as a much better person than he was. Everything that I've read up until that point is what you see there, and some of that is not very kind to him, or like it's not framing his neuroses and obsessiveness in a positive light. It's not like, oh, he's so positive he's so like driven. It's like, no, he had a problem. Like when he was doing this stuff, he was like egotistical, and even his mom was like, you need to relax. Even Pharrell was like, chill. That scene where he plays Pharrell his music, what song was it again?
I don't remember.
Is this episode 2?
Yeah, there's a song I can't remember.
The first one.
Yeah. There's a song where there's a scene in the second episode where he plays Pharrell his music, and Pharrell is so overwhelmed he just leaves the studio. Like he just walks away and comes back and literally is like, I didn't know. I'm sorry, I didn't know that I thought you were a producer. I didn't know.
There's a scene in the first episode with him and Mos Def where he asked Mos Def, he said, okay, I'm gonna give you 2 words, do a freestyle. And
Two Words is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yeah, and like he does this like great freestyle, and then it turns over to Kanye, and Kanye just fucking rips him apart, and you can see the whole room is like, whoa, dude. Like he just pops off, and nobody knew that he had that in him. And that's the whole thing about the first episode is like nobody wants him to be a rapper. Like everybody wants him to like make beats. Like nobody wants him to be a rapper, and he's like this amazing, next level rapper. But anyway,
for people who don't know, like that was his whole struggle. People would never take him seriously as a rapper. They only want his beats, and they would try and get his beats for free. And he was like, I'm a rapper. No one took him seriously until he did his own thing.
Yeah, I think even just like as someone who, obviously not nearly that creative, but as someone who like spends a lot of time pursuing creative endeavors and such, like I think just watching that was uplifting in a way too, because it is like, like just seeing someone like really believe in what he's doing and push so hard to make it work. I mean, maybe not work the way he hoped, or like even like, you look at him now and like maybe it hasn't got him to the best place, but like just seeing that sort of like that like very pure creative energy that just drives him through to like get that first album made and get signed by Rockefeller is like it's pretty inspiring. What's
the
that?
song was Through the Wire. The song was Through the Wire.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I definitely recommend it, even with all the stuff going on. I know the things he's done recently are kind of hard to overlook, and like I'm not even saying you should overlook it and watch this. I just think it's more like it was a time and place. Like, he was a very different artist, and I think it's enlightening.
I love a good rock doc, and this certainly is shaping up to be one, so I'm going to stick with it. We're going to wrap up, but before we do, let's plug our stuff. And also, I'll take this opportunity to say thank you for joining us on this very special episode. We clearly came in hot and made it work. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled program in 2 weeks. We'll pick up with Fooly Cooley. I was going to say FLCL. Is that right? Jake, how do you pronounce it? You love anime.
I've almost finished it, so but I don't know. In the show they say Fooly Cooley, but it's spelled FLCL. So
cool.
Jake, tell us where people can find you. Tell us what you're up to.
You can find me on pretty much everything at Jacob Deck, and tomorrow I will probably not stream Smash Bros because Elden Ring. So I will probably still stream, but it'll be Elden Ring at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. Pacific.
Good morning to the lands between. Lucy, what about you?
I'm Lucy James Games on everything. I'm not streaming on Tuesday because we're going to go see The Batman, which I'm very excited about. Going to go see Batman. So I'll be back on Thursday. And obviously, given world events, it doesn't really feel right to be streaming Metal Gear Solid 3 at the moment. So we are going to figure that out. Huh?
What do you got against Groznygrad?
She froze. She
was so upset. She froze. She's like,
she's yelling
really?
Right now.
Cam, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at TamorH. I'm also on Twitch as TamorH. Wow, very rude of you interrupting me while I'm doing my spiel.
What did I do?
Unbelievable. I'm talking here. Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm on Twitch as TamorH. I will be streaming. I think I'm streaming Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll let you know. I've got some live stuff that might be in the evening. I might do. Yeah, I'll find 3 days to stream next week. Probably do some Elden Ring. Might do something else because everyone is streaming Elden Ring.
I think you're really.
I think so. Okay,
Yeah.
I did an Elden Ring stream on Friday. First like full replay through start, and absolutely wrecked Margaret. So I don't know what anyone on Twitter is complaining about. I was like, easy clap.
True gamer.
Yeah.
My name is Zach Ryan. You can follow me on Twitter and Twitch at ZachariasD, where I typically stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. But it's been a few weeks, gang.
It's been a while.
My schedule has been sort of all over the place, and I appreciate folks in my community, in this community, kind of rolling with the punches as we figure stuff out in what has been the craziest months in games in some time. So we appreciate that. We'll be back in 2 weeks with Fooly Cooley, and until then, enjoy the lands between. Be good to yourself. We're the lads on tour, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.